Today we're going to be installing ball joint spacers on a Toyota pickup. Ball joint spacers work great for independent front suspension pickups and 4Runners from like 86 to 95-ish, around there, depending on the make and model and things of that nature. Ball joint spacers go between the upper control arm and the ball joint. So this is also a good opportunity for you to change out your ball joints if you need to do that. This is a 1.5-inch spacer, and they say that this is a 2.5-inch lift. And what you do for this lift is you put this 1.5-inch spacer in there, and then you tighten your torsion bars another inch. I did a video of that already, and I'll put a link up top for that. So today we're just going to be installing this spacer. What I did was I've already lifted the truck and taken off the wheel, but I actually lowered the front end to perfectly match the rear end at 35.5 inches from the ground up to this part of the wheel well right here. And so I'm gonna put this spacer in and we're gonna see if it actually does lift it 1.5 inches. So what we did here is we actually jacked up off of the lower ball joint and we pushed the suspension upwards. And the reason we're doing that is because I actually just put a socket in here. And this is going to space it out between the bump stop and the upper control arm. So when I go down with the jack, the suspension isn't going to go all the way down itself. So now that gives us a little bit more of a room. When I loosen this lower control arm, it's going to lower down more, and then this upper control arm is going to stay up. There's 4 12mm bolts right here that hold your upper ball joint on. I'm just going to loosen these up quite a bit. I'm going to get ready to lower the lower control arm with the jack once these are all loose. Now, there it goes. All right, so now we're all the way out. Some of the other videos I watched said you had to take off the calipers, you had to pull off this sway bar, and you had to disconnect your shocks, and I don't think you have to do any of that. This is the lowest possible place it's gonna go. Now we're gonna use this bottle jack to actually press up onto this upper control arm and push it up and out of the way. And the only thing that this socket's really doing is just giving us a little bit more room to work in here. I just grabbed the bottle jack that's inside the truck and just got it up and out of the vehicle. There we go. Because my upper ball joint has studs that stick through, we actually are going to have to remove these. Some upper control or upper ball joints don't have studs, they're just a bolt with a nut on top. But if yours is this way, I'm going to show you how to remove that now. All right, so to get these studs out, they're sort of threaded just like wheel studs are. And so we just screwed the nuts back on top and we're just gonna hit them down. We're not gonna reuse these nuts or these studs, so you can just abuse these. That one's down, that one's down, that one's down. This one didn't like any of that. See the nut moving? There we go. All right, that's gonna be fun to get off. But now we should be able to just undo these. They're loose enough, you can do them by hand. Otherwise, we'll get the wrench out. So since we're adding these spacers in here, the spacer doesn't quite fit up and into the inside. You can see how there's this gap up in here. So we actually have to grind away this back side and some of these side corners a little bit so that this spacer can get farther back into the upper control arm. That's probably the hardest thing about this install. Make sure you wear all your protection. Eyes, ears, mouth, and all. I'm also gonna put additional gloves on. Ear protection. So I can hear all your guys' wonderful comments. I guess I would read them, but yeah. So I'm just using a flapper wheel. I'm gonna grind this down. I've seen some other people use a cut-off wheel and just try to cut it off. We also turned really hard driver to push this kind of out of the way a little bit more. So let the fun begin. so you can get a good understanding of how much I had to grind away here. You go back pretty far in this one section right here, but you can see all that shiny area that had to grind away. And then you know you've gone far enough when you can hold this up on the inside, and then the holes line up, all 4 of them. You can just slide the bolts through to make sure it all fits, but that's when you know you're set. Just putting some towel up here real quick. We're gonna put a fresh coat of paint on the newly exposed metal, and I just don't want to hit anything else. So the supplied hardware came apart when I was doing the other side. These are actually the threads from the inside of the nut. When we torque these down, we're going to torque them to like 25 foot-pounds. And when I did that, it like stripped the threads off. So I went out and bought some grade 8 hardware, same size. These were 3 inches, 5/16 by 3 inches. So it's all the same setup. It's just I got a grade 8 nylon lock and then a grade 8 bolt, and then I'm reusing the flat washers that they provided. So what I do, so this channel right here is specifically cut in there for to leak water or anything out of. So we're just gonna slide this up in here, and this kind of just goes over the top. And then it's good to have a buddy to now lower this upper control arm. Can we do that, buddy? See if buddy can handle it. Have your bolts ready. I'm not lined up right. Hold on. What's the matter here? There we go. There we go. All right, all the bolts are down. So now we're just going down with the upper control arm. We're lowering it down till it hits all the way down on that spacer. The bolts are helping us line everything up. There we go. Now we're loose on the jack. And really, for the most part, we can take that out of here now. And then we're gonna put on the nuts on the bottom. There we go, 25 foot-pounds. You're gonna go all around and then do it one more time just to make sure that everything is at the right torque, because when you tighten one spot up, it might loosen up another one. See how this side's loose now? This one was tight. So that's why we're gonna go around again and check every one. That ball joint spacer did lift it right around 1.5 inches. I know I was about 35.5 inches when I started, and now I'm right around 37 inches to about this spot on the fender to the ground. So that was pretty spot on for that 1.5 inch spacer. Now what you need to do is you need to take this, go get professionally aligned, because you are pushing everything down. It is towing those your tires in. So to preserve your tires, like I want to preserve these because they're really nice, I'm going to go take this to get it aligned. Besides that, everything else is ready to go. I appreciate you watching. Hammer down on that subscribe button, and don't forget, keep crawling.